while walking late at night. And I know it's not a dream.
From Maelstrom to Manat, Boston to LA, there are people asking questions and they will not go away. But what has been seen might not be what it seems. The government's shadows dance in the sea.
If you tell the truth, they will ridicule everything you say and do. It's all part of a deception. It's a puppet master's.
You can advertise your business on Night Dreams Talk Radio, and you will be heard worldwide. Why not contact us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com. Night Dreams Talk Radio, After Dark, wants to give a big shout out to all the truckers that listen to our show.
And without you truckers, we would not be where we're at today. And also, maybe you should consider calling in on Halloween and tell us some scary stories while you're out making a long haul. Again, our number for Halloween is going to be 1-253-203-6681. James, are you there?
Yes, I am still here. Could you imagine the night of the call in, a trucker live, while he's seeing it, a cow lifted up by no means that he can see? Wouldn't that be a really intriguing call in?
Well, I would like to hear more than that. I like the stories where they pick up hitchhikers and they're talking to them for like 5 or 10 or 15 miles. And, and they notice that the hitchhiker they picked up was wearing clothes that are like 20 or 30 years out of style. And they're telling, some story like, oh, my boyfriend dumped me off out in the middle of nowhere, because that's where they usually find these people. And then you're talking to them back and forth, right? And then you look, on the passenger seat at one moment, and then 1 moment later, they're gone. It's totally gone. Could you imagine you're doing a long haul, you're tired, it's late at night, and you picked up somebody you probably should have not picked up, and you've been talking to them, and then 1 minute they're there, and the next minute they're gone. Now, are you hallucinating, or did you pick up some entity that maybe died on that road stretch, 20 or 30 years or 40 years before that, or 50 years even?
Yeah, that would definitely make me take another route, so to speak. And I've actually had scenarios not like that, but I've been on country roads in the middle of nowhere and seen these shadow figures. Matter of fact, the one time like 35 years ago, I was on a date with this lady, and we was in the middle of this nowhere oil well road, and we spotted these 3 shadow figures, and they stopped and turned and looked at us, and there was only one way out. We had to go through them. Oh, Gary, that was a scary night.
It would be, that. I don't pick up hitchhikers. I don't go any places where I, would run into that. But when I was younger, I had some strange things happen. Hey, Sam is with us. How you doing today, Sam?
I'm feeling pretty good after a weekend of rest and relaxation.
Yeah. What did you do to your mic gain since the last time we talked? I am going to come over to your place with a tube of super glue.
Anything. I'll tell you that I never made an adjustment since the last time I was on the program.
Wow. I sure had to turn your mic gain down on my end here. So, have you heard any stories like truckers or somebody picks up a hitchhiker and they're talking to him for a while? And then and then they turn and look at the person they're talking to, and there's nobody in the seat next to you. They're like they vanished out of their vehicle. What have you heard?
There's a bridge over I used to live in North Carolina years ago, and there's a town nearby called Jamestown, and an old bridge. And the older part of the bridge has been long gone. It's still there, but it's when they rerouted the road around the bridge. But once in a blue moon, someone comes along at a certain time at night, and it looks like someone who's left a school. What do you call that? Not the graduation. It's the event they have, before they graduate. The party, the prom.
Yeah, the
That's
prom.
what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
Yeah, so they picked up someone who looked like a girl, teenage girl, that looks like she's wearing a prom dress, and gets in the car and says, "Where are you going?" And just talking. Well, I just left. I couldn't deal with it or something. I don't know what the story was. And she get in the car, and then they drive down a little bit and turn around and look, and it's gone. And that's the same thing reported over and over and over again. So it's one of the most popular ghost stories. I may not have it exactly right, but I know it's one of the most popular ghost stories coming from that part of North Carolina. But North Carolina is very highly paranormal.
Oh,
There's
is.
a lot of stuff that goes on there.
Yeah, I was at New Bern, North Carolina for a while. I did not like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can just say, but you know what? I that was like 47 years ago. Wow, I am old. But I'm sure things have changed since then. But yeah, I mean, that area is rich and scary and paranormal and strange things in that area.
But we had personal issues with it too. We've had some personal experiences. I know my kids, during a separation that I went through, the kids stayed with their mom in this old house. James, you were just talking about the shadow people, and they would see the shadows. They're like entities or forms of people moving across the walls. My son would wake up and would have these marks on his body. One time when he was in the car with us, he said he was feeling something on his, he pulled his shirt up around his stomach area. And as we watched, we saw 3 holes being formed in his stomach, on his stomach. So this is some of the weird stuff that we've had to put up with in the past.
Wow. You got any comments for that, James?
Yeah, that's scary. That's time to either bless the house or move or do something. I mean, especially, wow, that's scary stuff. I've experienced that. I've been scratched and bit and pushed, you name it. It's not fun. It definitely gets your attention. And speaking of roads, there's a road. I lived on the East Coast 15, 20 years. State Route 44 goes through Rhode Island up into Massachusetts near the old Taunton dog track. There's a guy that's been seen, a hitchhiker like you speak of. I think he got killed in the 50s or 70s, but he hitchhikes along State 44. If you see a guy in a flannel shirt hitchhiking, it's probably a spirit, not a real man.
Well, that's what I like about when I get, I get in conversations with truckers, and I do have a couple of truckers coming in November after the 15th that tell their little scary stories. But, can you imagine, though, you're out there long hauling and you see a beautiful woman just walking on the side of the road, and it's late at night, like 2 o'clock in the morning or so, and there's no traffic on this road. So you do the generally the nice thing, okay? And you pull over and you let the person get into your cab of your truck. And now you're talking to her about, the current events, but her current events is like 50 years old, and then she says, "Oh, my boyfriend dumped me off in the middle of nowhere." And then you find out, after she disappears out of your cab without any, not even opening the door and jumping out, she's just like gone. You found out, when you go to the next town and you stop at the sheriff or the police department, you found out there's been a lot of reports on that road of this girl wearing the same bell-bottom plaid pants and, all this stuff, at night being picked up by truckers, and then she just vanishes.
Yeah, that's scary. That is scary. There's another incident here where I live in a little town. Well, it's about 15 miles away from me, a little town called Newcomerstown, but there's the old legend of the Post Boy Road where a post boy got run over years and years ago, and supposedly you still can see him out there on a bike delivering newspapers, even though it's not really a boy, it's a spirit.
That can happen. I know this one trucker told me a story back a couple of weeks ago that he pulled over, let this guy get in the truck. But he got nervous because the guy was like staring at him with beady eyes, what he said. And then all of a sudden the guy pulls a gun out on him and, and wants him to drive a certain area. And the guy is making all the threats to him, like if he doesn't do what he's told to do, that he's going to be killed. And he's basically saying that they're hijacking the truck. And the same thing happened. A minute later, this guy's sweating bullets. He's scared, he's going to get killed. And if not killed, how is he going to explain what happened to his truck with all the whatever's in the back cargo? And he looks over at the guy and is, holding the gun at him, and there's nobody there.
That's scary
That's
in
bizarre.
two different ways. Yeah, definitely.
Well, maybe what I figure is probably a truck got hijacked on that road and, something happened and the hijacker got killed or something. But the hijacker is still there trying to hijack trucks. Hey, I love this time of year. A lot of these stories come out, and I love it.
There's a lot of them out there, that's for sure.
We're going to have a lot of stories. I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead. Never say you're sorry unless you're married.
Know.
Then you can say sorry every day.
We'll just throw up cards. Say I'm next. Yeah, there was an event we had at one of the local castles here up in Washington State, and of course I could probably, if I had Superman strength, I could probably throw a stone over to your place over at the compound from where I'm at, downhill, that is. But there is a haunted castle called the Manresa Castle down in Port Townsend. And this past weekend, a lot of my friends who are Bigfooters and things like that went to the party that they had there. And a lot of strange things happened there. So I'm going to mention one thing was really weird was a picture was taken. It looked like a boy standing in the front door. I mean, he was pretty solid, but there was this purple entity around and behind him. And no one knows where that came from. We don't even know who that person is because kids weren't really allowed to be at the party. So could not identify who the other person was. So I'm hopefully I'm going to ask a few of them to try to call in on Thursday or the 31st for our show and tell some of those stories because some of them are pretty good. Oh, yeah. I got a funny feeling our phone line is going to get congested. You know that because I'm going to have James on. You're going to be on. I'm going to naturally be here. Mm-hmm. And then it leaves me one line left. And, well, depending on how many people call, we'll find out. But people, if you call and the line's busy, give it like 3 minutes and then dial back because I'm going to put a limit to about 3-4 minutes per call. And I'm going to probably put a limit about 5 or 6 phone calls that night. So come up with your very best, scariest stories. They can be real, they can be folklore, or what your grandmother even told you that was real, which you know wasn't real. So
I'll say.
I don't know, though. I don't know if I want to do it because telling all these scary stories with all these creatures in the studio now, they're all looking at me. They're all staring at me, every one of them.
They're going to have a life of their own here pretty quick.
Now, of course, I have to tell you, I angled each one to stare at me anyway. So I wanted
glutton of punishment.
Yeah.
Your wife's going to wrangle some of them up there when you're asleep, and you're going to wake up one morning with one of those looking over you.
Well, Sam, did you hear what I said? What I plan to do tomorrow night?
I heard. Yes, unfortunately.
I take it you don't think that's funny either.
Oh, hey, I think I've kind of caught on to the fact that your wife expects this stuff from you. It's a normal thing from you.
Well, or something. But I got this zombie mask. It's so realistic, and it costs a lot of money to boot. But it goes over this one skeleton, which is about 5'7", and it goes over its head perfect. So I wanted to sneak out of bed a half an hour before the alarm goes off and just put this in its place. And then I might even put the arm of the skeleton right next to my wife's head like I normally do,